I wanted to talk about building off of our conversation last week about like good ideas and bad ideas.
Yes.
And there have been motorcycle trends over the decades.
Yes.
That I find they go too far.
Oui.
Like they become just too much.
Like riding scooters.
And I
it's
wanted
an
to
appalling
talk. I
trend.
wanted to talk about some of these trends.
Nonsense.
when customization goes too far. And so I wanted to kind of get feedback from you guys here. Bagel, can you see the screen?
I can.
Great. The first thing up I have are ape hangers. Now I've had a bike with ape hangers. They weren't exceeding. They were 18-inch ape hangers. They were, within range. It was okay. I thought it looked cool. But there are some people who take ape hangers too far. And so I'm sharing with everyone here some of the images of ape hangers that have gone too far. Now, Emma, how does it affect the handling?
So, well,
Love it.
hello. In short, it doesn't.
We're just looking at some ridiculous examples of ape hangers.
In real terms, it doesn't. Putting ape hangers on your bike, actually what it does is it shifts the weight back, and it shifts your weight back. Where it's really going to be a problem, because your point of contact on the bike, which is basically your arse, doesn't change. But where it's actually going to affect handling is your range of movement, because as human beings, we're given this range of movement, both side to side and up and down. So we have a picture of a lovely young black gentleman here who is riding a...
Hey, why do you have to tell everyone he's young?
Okay, well, it's
Because he doesn't look
Are you
old
in
enough to
ages?
ride that bike.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, there he is.
And
I am guessing...
these ape hangers go behind the seat. His arms are up and back.
Well, we've got the yardstick is, we're looking at the top of his head, and...
It's like about 18 inches.
And I was going to say...
Above his head.
I would say the grips are about an inch above his head.
Inch? No.
Inch? No,
18 inches.
A foot above his head. Now, the problem
At least.
here is because of the position he's in, his range of movement is going to be severely restricted. Theoretically, the bike will actually be able to go down the road as it was before. Because remember, the point of contact hasn't changed. It's still his butt on the seat. Mm-hmm. However, any amount of counter steering he's not going to be able to do. Plus, if you think about any flex in the front end is going to be amplified through the bars. So our next picture is, it's a Harley Davidson. Mm-hmm. Those are probably 24s, I would say.
But they're wide. They're extremely
It's a
wide.
Harley Davidson and an idiot.
But here's an important point. He actually doesn't look that uncomfortable.
No.
Now, the grips are about in line with his eyes, which is higher than I would go. But his range of movement, he's still got enough left. I think he's probably pretty comfortable
It's not
on
so
that
bad.
thing.
So what do you think about this one?
No, the problem is... the problem... Okay, now, obviously, I'm a bit more of a serious rider as opposed to... And I think that function should follow design.
Right.
And okay, we're talking about handling back and forth here. What I'm really concerned about is as soon as somebody actually has to hit the front brakes in even a halfway decent amount... it's not going to work. Things are not going to work out well if you have to hit
He's
the front
literally
brakes
going to
hard.
be swinging on a monkey bar.
Exactly.
He really
His
will.
face is going to hit the gauges.
So what we're looking at here is another Harley Davidson. And again,
Is that a Road King?
it's anybody's guess what it
It's
used
an
to
idiot.
be. It's probably, I would say it's probably a Softail of some description. It might be a Heritage, but nevertheless, the grips are easily a foot above the top of his head. And his range of movement, he's at the absolute limit of his range of movement standing still. So there's zero room for error. He's not going to be able to countersteer. As everyone's pointed out, braking
Can't brake.
You can't brake. And any road
Harley guys use front
irregularity,
brakes? I think they just use
any
rear brakes.
irregularity in the forks is going to be amplified so much through the bars. And fatigue is going to be a huge problem with that.
Well, they don't ride that far.
Right, I could see him being fatigued after about 10 minutes of riding without.
That's a stress position.
Is he smoking a cigarette, or is that?
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
That's what
Look
really
at that.
offends me.
He's
No, I'm just kidding.
actually he's probably smoking a fatty. I would suggest.
I mean, this position is used for torture in some countries, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
So-
but no, he's absolutely at the limit of his range of movement.
So I wanted to point something out. I mean, we're somewhat like mocking these customizations. Now, I myself said that I had ape hangers and I thought that they were cool. But it's like this human nature thing to then take things past this limit. And I'll use, for example, body modification. Does everyone here have a tattoo?
Yes.
Yes.
Nope.
Will you put a tattoo on your face?
No.
Well,
It's kind of like there's a line you draw, right?
well, you see, this is where I differ from most people. I think all body modification, no matter how extreme, is completely valid.
Well, but I'm just saying,
I'm not saying it's invalid.
there's
It's
a
just-
line.
yeah.
And then let's take like
If I was a rap star, I'd do it.
Does everyone here wear a necklace?
But you're not
No.
endangering
I
yourself
know.
by getting a face
Hold on.
tattoo.
But like everyone here would wear a necklace, right? But when the women of Myanmar stack those rings and stretch
I'd
their
do that.
necks, it's like, ooh, now it's gotten kind of weird, right?
Now
I'm saying,
you're affecting your health. You're on to something
you
there.
right. So I'm saying there's parallels, or how many
to
people
each
have
his
had a pierced ear versus putting the
Giant
plugs
hoops,
in, the
yeah.
giant plugs in there and stretching your lobes. It's like it's human nature to take things to an extreme and take things past the norm of society,
But
and
that's-
find these limits
But I think that's just great.
to where you are somewhat you're paying the price. And in motorcycles, in all of these examples, I think that you lose not just performance, handling, all of the things, right? You make it less capable, less.
But maybe that's not the end game with this. I mean, nobody's going to buy a Harley Davidson Softail thinking it's going to be the greatest handling bike in the world.
But that's like the limit of where you're going to go with.
Oh,
with ape hangers.
absolutely.
I'm just
I agree.
acknowledging that, in fact, it is not just one certain segment of the motorcycle community.
Offensive.
No, that is Bosozuku, and
So
that is
the next
super
thing up
valid.
is Bosozuku. So
That is super valid, and that's not just a motorcycle. That is a musical instrument, and they are great at it. Have you ever seen them when they play tunes on the exhaust system?
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's incredible. No, Bosozuku is legit. It's absolutely, and to Western eyes, it seems ridiculous, but Bosozuku in Japan. If you want to see something really well, and see if you can get a picture of this now, look up a Bosozuku van.
no, I
They
wouldn't
make
do
the
that.
motorcycles look tame.
How do you spell it?
Just a van. Oh, B-O-S.
Sozoku, Bosozuku. So, for those who aren't familiar with Bosozuku, it started, I believe, in the 60s. And
Yes.
this was more like the gang. It's their version of Hell's Angels, let's say. Right? And it was more of the criminal element. And they do different things to their bikes. But one of the main things is to take the fairings and twist them so they're pointing up, and the seats and tails to twist them so they're pointing up. So the bike basically looks like it's been tacoed. It's just a
That's
look.
quite a tame Bosozuku van. But it's a movement that involves bikes and cars. However, the one commonality between all the vehicles, it doesn't have to, it's not just an artistic piece to look at, is there are quite strict rules about the exhaust system, the way the way the exhaust system sounds. And the cars as well tend to have these huge stack exhausts. And you rev them up close to the limit and actually play a tune on the exhaust system.
There's a Honda CT. Bosozuku.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They happen in all different types of bikes. This style, but it's not just the bikes. It's also the outfits they wear.
Right.
The outfits are very important too.
And everything has a meaning. It's very, very structured, like a lot of things in Japan. We tend to think of it as being just this crazy, wild, free thing, but Bosozuku is actually very, very structured in how the bikes look, how they behave. That is great. I think that is just superb, and he looks fantastic as well.
Yeah. So, but these are Japanese street bikes.
Yes,
these aren't.
And they rode around
cruisers.
in gangs, and you can hear them coming because they're all like, bap, 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 you know.
Yeah, and a lot of times they'll have weapons attached to them, bats, stuff like that. And it's unique, and they've created their own style unlike anything else. Now, there was tens of thousands of Bosozuku at one point. I think the height was in the 80s. It has now dwindled down to very few. So this is a dying trend, but still it's pretty funny to see this kind of extreme.
Well, the thing is, there's a point I want to make here, is we're not getting the full picture here in America. Looking at a picture like that, it's kind of, we're looking at it out of context. If you want to get the full context, you need to go to Japan and actually see them as who they are. So it's very, very easy to look at a still picture like this and just say, ho, 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 what an idiot. But you're not getting the full picture. And it's the same when you do with body modifications. If you see somebody who's tattooed from head to foot, it's ho, 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 look at that freak. But if you actually put it into perspective of the life they're living, it actually begins to make more sense.
So how do the ape hangers make sense then?
But I'm not really seeing a lot of extreme stuff here in terms of making this bike harder to ride. It's
not.
Really.
It's just.
I think it looks kind of cool.
It's kind of weird, but again, it's something they wanted to do their own thing that was not what society considered to be exceptional. But I want to go on to the next one because I think this one will get some replies, and this is definitely probably the most controversial customization, the dark side. So for those who don't know, the dark side, and I couldn't figure out where this name came from, but there is a theory, and many people say that they prove it, that automotive tires will last so much longer than motorcycle tires. There's even conspiracies that say that it's all a racket, motorcycle tires. You put a car tire on there, it'll last 50,000 miles, right? Can you get 50,000 miles out of a motorcycle tire?
No.
So they put on car tires, and there are even some people who do the Iron Butt Rally on car tires because it will last longer. So, Emma,
yes,
what is your opinion? And I want to clarify, this is only on the rear wheel. To put a car tire on the front wheel, I think, would be certain death.
So,
hey, if you're daring enough.
Yeah, if you're daring enough. So, I try and make a point, as I navigate my way through life, I try not to be judgy of other people's decisions, whether they're good or bad. I mean, it's a decision they need to make. The only experience I have with the dark side was about 5 years ago. I had a client show up at the shop with a Honda Goldwing 1800, which he had just bought off the internet. And he turned up at the shop and he was white as a sheet. And he said, I've just ridden this bike home. It is the most evil handling thing I have ever ridden. And I said, challenge accepted. And I got on it and I made it halfway down the block and it scared the crap out of me. And it was a bone stock Goldwing with a car tire on the back. And so I checked the pressure, and the pressure was exactly where it should be, and the car tire wasn't worn. So I said, let's return this bike to stock. So I ordered a very expensive rear tire and put it on, and it was one of the sweetest handling Goldwings I've ever come across. Aside from that example, I won't go any further. I will tell you that there isn't a single person who has a car tire on the back of their bike that will look me in the eye and say their bike handles better than it had the bike tire on.
Well, but I will say,
it is just
when a tire wears out, it wears out in the center. So I think for people who
maybe
are
your tire wears out in the center.
yeah. I think for travelers, I want to say, I'm not saying you should go do this, but I see how it's logical to them that a car tire will last
provided
longer.
you never turn.
Yes.
Liza, can I, as someone who has gone to the dark side, can I share my experience here?
Wait, what bike did you put a car tire on?
That one back there, the Vespa GTS 250.
Okay,
my Cannonball Vespa GTS 250.
Yeah,
I
wait,
found,
was it a golf cart tire?
No, this was I think it was a 145/70 R12. That was
that's a mini tire.
A tire. Yeah. It was a tire for a mini, exactly.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And I found a shop
mini
in San Jose
tire.
that had two of them, and I bought both of them. And I put one on the spare rim that I had, and I tried it out.
And I bet you took it off.
Well, let me tell you, it barely fit on there, but it just fit. And I could ride it. But the thing is that when you lean on with the rear car tire, it feels like you're going up like on the edge of.
Well, you are.
Sure. Well, because you are up on the edge of the tire, but it's like you're on the edge of a knife.
Like you have a big flat spot.
Yeah, and if you lean over too far, it's like you feel like you're about to low side. So it's a very unsettling experience, especially when the tire's new.
Yeah.
Now, when you ride on it for a couple 1,000 miles, like I did, especially in the twisties, you can start to wear down those edges a little bit. And it will start to handle a little bit better. Plus, you start to get used to how it handles, and you start to anticipate that edge more, and you kind of get used to it. And after a while, you just adjust, and you can compensate and make it work for you. But I will say that it does not handle well no matter what. and I did run it for a while on one of the Cannonballs that I did in the parts where I was going on like long flat sections through the middle of the continent, where I just wanted to have that tire longevity, which it did have. It did not wear out nearly as fast as a bike tire did. But it came at a cost of the handling, and I would not do it again. Even though I still have the tire mounted on the rim, I don't think I'd ever put it back on another bike.
The thing that's interesting about this modification, I think it's the one that is truly function driven, not style, where the rest are style. But the other thing that's interesting is I showed a picture of a cruiser, a Japanese a touring bike, and now a Goldwing,
right.
Which is also a Japanese
touring
bike. But yes,
that's actually a Valkyrie.
Okay, and then Bagel says on a scooter. So this is something that isn't limited to one genre of the motorcycle.
I think.
Oh no!
And I've got to be honest with you. You know, you talk about. We talked about a little bit about the Bosozuku being interpreted out of context. If I lived in Iowa or Nebraska, and the roads were dead straight and just went on for miles and miles and miles, and that was my riding, and there were no turns to speak of, it might be something to consider. But, if you're introducing curves, it's something you need to get used to. So
for this next one, this is something that's interesting. This is something I've only seen in the sport bike world and the scooter world. This is one that the choppers and the cruisers have seemed to avoid.
Furries.
The furries. Now, some of us have been riding a long time, and we remember seeing the furries.
Yeah. Furries are legit.
So furries are when you cover your entire bike in fake fur. right? Now,
Yeah, sure.
why?
That's something Knock would do.
Why would somebody do this, right? And not just sport bikes. Here's I believe it's a KLR or a DR.
That is a KLR.
All right, a KLR. And why would
looks like a
somebody
wolf.
do this? It seems kind of stupid, but actually, this was function driven as well. This came out of the stunter scene. When you scratch your plastics up, it's very expensive to replace it. So they found it was just easier to cover the bike in
fake
fur that you can recover again and again.
Do you have to
want.
like brush it out every other day or so?
So I just thought that was funny. The furries, and when you think about, okay, this is just ridiculous. But it was function driven.
No, it doesn't.
Now,
no safety
what do you guys
issues.
think? Does
It's
it look
functional.
good, or do you think it's just stupid?
Do you?
It's a matter
The
of
first
taste,
one
really.
was, I actually really liked the first one. That one, that one I would own. But I would say as a whole, the trend might need to go the way of the dinosaur. Although when it's done well, I think that to see one once in a while, it would be entertaining. I'd like to see one pull up to Emma's shop.
Well, actually, a good friend of ours that we all know, our good friend Phil, has a Vespa scooter
Oh, that's right.
covered in fur.
That's right.
It is a Chewbacca scooter.
Okay.
Nice.
And it
He
has
did it. He did
has
it.
the
Little
it has
bandolier on it.
the bandolier and a Chewbacca face on it, and so it
Yes.
actually pulls it off. But this is something that I think did kind of go away because it got really nasty really fast.
You do
Yeah,
understand.
don't let it get wet.
Yeah.
But you do understand there are people who dress up as like hedgehogs and squirrels and
Yeah,
have
yeah.
sex with
Yeah,
each other.
furries.
You understand
Every
that.
Friday night downtown they
Yes.
meet.
Right.
But again,
I've got
No, I
tickets.
think this
don't-
is legit.
Matches in it.
I don't think I've ever seen a Harley covered in fur. Like somehow,
I guarantee it's been
somehow
done.
the chopper guys seem to escape this trend. But
What, they're okay with their adorable little leather chaps and cute little vests?
And tassels.
But this next one is, I think you'll soon see, it's pretty limited to just one segment of our community.
Yeah,
Mod
mods,
bikes.
Mods, yeah.
The mod scooters, usually the Vespas and Lambrettas. And they love to have the excessive mirrors and lights on them. And
And horns.
antennas and horns and flags and all the things.
And the irony
foxtails.
is, the lights you can actually hook up because, Vespas and Labrettas have got tiny charging systems, and if you were to turn even 3 of those lights on, the alternator would be like, hang on.
unless you just add a second battery behind the leg shield and
Yeah.
wire it up to the lights, then you're all set.
Yeah, total loss.
And to me, this is
Yes.
a perfect example of, again, taking things too far. Right?
Bagel, have you ever done one of these?
I have not. It's a thought that might have entered my mind at one time and then very quickly left.
So,
I don't hate it. I actually like it, but then again, maybe I have a
Okay.
tendency to
It's
take
wild.
things too far.
no, well,
Until the sun is setting and you're driving behind them. Yeah.
hang on. I'm going to speak with a little authority on this because,
okay.
number one, this came out of my home country.
Yeah.
And number two, was the oldest person in this room, and I actually remember these cats riding about.
Yeah.
You've got to understand, we're looking at things out of context. And I'm not talking about the people who are copying the trend now, like this guy. Go back to that previous picture, please. So this picture was taken in a working class English town, probably in the early 60s, in 63 or 64. We've got a very, very clean-cut young man. He's wearing a striped blazer and a tie and a shirt. And he has customized his scooter with a lot of the accessories that were available at the time.
I count 32 mirrors alone.
I think he was cock of the north on that thing. I really do.
So what was the point?
He was
Emma?
doing well.
It was
Just look at me. Look at me.
it was pure. Look at his clothes.
Yeah.
It's purely style.
Right.
It is purely
It's bling.
style. And you've got to understand that style is a very, very transient thing.
That's true.
Just because it's stylish now, it doesn't mean it's going to be stylish down the road. Now, back in
It's
the
like
mid
shag carpet.
platform boots,
Yeah.
back in the mid-70s, guys wore platform boots as well. It wasn't uncommon for guys to be wearing 6-inch heels.
Like Kiss.
You try
David
that
Bowie.
now. No, these were just guys going to work.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about, Kiss and the rock stars. These were working guys, wore platform boots. Try that now. That trend's gone. I think as a style statement back in the early 60s, this was super legit. And remember, you couldn't do much to these bikes. You could maybe put an expansion chamber on it. You could maybe give it a good paint job. But it wasn't like a motorcycle where you could fundamentally change it, right, Bagel? It's changing the handlebars or the forks on a scooter is a fairly major job. So what are you going to do? You're going to customize it in an aesthetic way rather than a functional way, like putting clip-ons on a BSA or changing the brakes or changing the forks.
Right.
So the counterpoint here is the
customization-
cafe racers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that was mods versus rockers.
Yeah, but it's just funny when, like, 2 mirrors, 4 mirrors, 6 mirrors, no, 32 mirrors. They had taken it to extreme.
Well,
so
it's who could one up the
Exactly.
the other guy.
Right.
So-
Who could add 2 more mirrors.
So there it is. I would like to hear from our listeners if there's anything you think that I missed. I specifically did leave out things like, painting skulls on them, because those are things that don't really affect the performance and that can easily be painted over. It's not, to me, it's not permanent. Or, the neon lights and stuff like that. That's fun. It's cool. But it's not that big of a commitment or a statement.
There's chrome also.
Over chroming is something. So what did I miss?
I've seen bikes with stereos that would violate local arms treaties.
I do hate that.
I
do hate that. So send me your pitches on what you think should be included on the list of worst trends of all time to motorcyclesandmisfits@gmail.com.
Yes, yes, yes.